So we're on part 7, and I'm going to continue the example we finished part 6 with, which was here. I went ahead and did calculate the cube root of 16, which is about 2.51. So we would put 2.5 in instead of the cube root of 16 to make it easier. Subtract the 3 from both sides, and we would come up with our root as x equals negative 0.5 or negative half. So that concluded that section. So now here in part 7, we're going to look at sum and difference of cubes. So what we're going to be doing is factoring these expressions. Now right here what we have is we have difference of cubes. And difference again meaning subtraction. So these are difference of cubes. And how do I know they're difference of cubes? Well, it's a difference, first of all. And what I'm going to be looking at is seeing if these are all perfect cubes. And that's how I can tell if it's a difference of two cubes. The difference is the subtraction part. That's what difference means. So let's see if we can factor these. X cubed is already factored, and remember I told you to find your base. And what is the cube root of 125? Is it a perfect cube? And the answer is yes, it is 5 cubed. So I'm going to write it as x cubed minus 5 cubed. If you remember back to our lesson on sum and difference of cubes, we've got one format for these two. And here's the format. For the difference of cubes, we have, if you have x cubed minus c cubed, then you factor that by using your bases. X is your first base, c is your second base. It's x minus c times x squared plus c times x plus c squared. So we're going to apply this with the example we have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite and I'm going to put in my signs. I'm always going to put my signs in here. So first let's identify the bases. The bases are x and 5. Those are our two bases. That makes it so much easier for you to figure this out. So I'm going to look at x and 5. So let's apply where we need to apply the x. So here, x goes here, x goes here, x squared, and then x goes in the middle, c times x. We'll come back to that. So let's apply our second base, which is 5. 5 goes here. 5 squared, which is 25, goes here. And now my last term is the product of the two bases, which is 5 times x. And we're done. That is how you factor a difference of two cubes. It's not complicated as long as you know the pattern. So let's go to the next example. We have x cubed. I'm going to go ahead and write it like this, minus 125y cubed. Well, 125 is a perfect cube. It's 5 cubed. So I'm going to write 5 cubed y cubed. And remember, because these are multiplied and they're to the same exponent, and some of you already skipped this first step anyway, I can write it just like this. So here's my difference of my two cubes. So let's set up. I'm going to set it up over here so it's easier to see. I've got minus, plus, plus. And now I'm going to find out what I have. My two bases are x and 5y. So I'm going to plug those in accordingly. So let's do base minus base. X minus 5y. Now let's go to the second expression. I've got x squared, which is my first base squared. I've got c squared, which is my second base squared. 5y squared, which is 5y times 5y, actually is 25y squared. So 25y squared is what goes in there. In the center, I multiplied the two bases together, so I get 5 times x times y. And this is the factoring for that difference of cubes. And we got one more example. So let's look at this bottom example here. I have 8x cubed. Well, 8 is a perfect cube. 8 is 2 cubed. So I'm going to write it as 2 cubed x cubed. And 216, is that a perfect cube? Yes, it is. It is 6 cubed. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 36 is 216. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write them in base format. I do that for my reference. And let's identify our two bases. 2x and 6 are our two bases. So let's set up our factor. We're going to have minus, plus, plus. All right, my two bases, x and c, go first. So 2x and 6. This term is going to be my first base squared. So if I square 2x, that's 2x times 2x, which is 4x squared. So this is 4x squared. The center term is just the product of my two bases. So 2x times 6 is 12x. And the last term is my other second base squared, which is 6. So 6 squared is 36. And you are done. So that is how we factor a difference of cubes.